Thank you.
Love makes the world go round. Snap, what a happy sound. Snap is the happiest sound I've found. But snap makes the world go round. Snap makes the world go round. Well, I say it's crackle, the crispy sound. You gotta have crackle or the clock's not wound. Crackle makes the world go round. The line insist that pops the sound. The best is missing as pops around. Pop makes the world go round. Pop makes the world go round. Pop makes the world go round.
And now, introducing your host with the most, Mr. Greg along with Rick Brusuelas and Dennis Michelson. Now, let's get to the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to Snap, Crackle, Pop. And really the purpose of this show is just to give you some quick updates to help you get ready for Fantasy Week 11. And I will, want to first of all, you're obviously not seeing Greg with us today. Greg's still in Japan, but thanks a lot to Joe Carlton, who's joining us, filling in and providing his great insights. And we'll look forward to Greg being here, I think, next week. So anyway, wanted to, first of all, kick off with some of the news. But before we even get there, there's two teams on bye this week, the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. So if you players like, Jonathan Taylor, who had a massive week this past week, Michael Pittman, Chris Olave, Tyler Warren, Daniel Jones, Tyler Shuck. If you have any of those players, you better find other players to fill in for them. And so let's get into injuries. And before we really get into injuries, I wanted to point out a really major news item that happened this past week. Shortly after playing in Thursday Night Football, Alex Singleton, the very next day, had surgery to remove a tumor. He had testicular cancer. He posted about it the very next day after that, wanting to be able to share his story, but also to kind of encourage all of us to be more aware of our health and try to get early identification and early treatment. He hopes to be back later this season, and I think all of us, want to extend our prayers and best hopes that he's able to come back and quickly and completely over from that cancer. So Joe Burrow, this is more of a good news type of thing. He injured his toe back in week 2 against Jacksonville, and he returned to practice today. Returned yesterday. And he's announcing that he hopes to be able to play by Thanksgiving, the game against Baltimore. This is like one of those stories where he went out early. The team really was expected to contend, and unfortunately they lost 5 out of the next 6 without Burrow, despite all the great efforts of Joe Flacco, who played really well in his stead. Burrow's return would be a huge boost, but depending on how that team's doing going into the Week 13 game, if they're still with the possibility of contending, I think there would be better odds that he might play. If not, they may want to save him for next year. Jackson Dart, New York Giants quarterback, suffered a concussion in the third quarter of the game against the Bears. It's the 4th time that Dart has had was evaluated for concussion during Dart's rookie year. Veteran Russell Wilson came in, was 3 for 7 for 45 yards. He would be the likely replacement, although the Giants also have Jameis Winston, who's a fan favorite. He would also be available. Brock Purdy, the 49er quarterback, he suffered an injury way back in week 4. He could return for week 11, according to Coach Shanahan. Mac Jones has actually played pretty well in his place, but since the 49ers in week 11 are playing against the Cardinals, not likely to have much of a challenge from them, so they may play it safe and start Jones one more week. Chris Rodriguez, the Washington Commanders running back, suffered a shoulder injury after going 6 for 16 and a touchdown in the game against the Lions. The Commanders will now go back to Ja'Cory Krosky, Merritt, or Bill, and or veteran Jeremy McNichols in the backfield. Cam Knight suffered an ankle injury in their game against in the last game, and then that would make the Cardinals go back to the revolving door of either Imari DiMarcado, who was 4 for 64 and 3 for 40 yards, or Michael Carter, who was barely used for three runs for 4 yards, until Trey Benson returns. Coach Gannon said that Benson is progressing well, but he is still day-to-day. So I would be watching practice reports for the possibility that Benson might actually start showing up for practice and might be available for week 11. Garrett Wilson, New York Jets, wide receiver. He came back for the week 10 game against the Browns, and then he exited with an early knee injury. Now he's expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks. And the Jets are already down. Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard was a healthy scratch. So other wide receivers to look at would be Arian Smith, who's a rookie, newly acquired A.D. Mitchell, who was also a healthy scratch last game, John Mechie, Tyler Johnson, and kick return specialist Isaiah Williams. Devontae Adams also suffered an injury, an oblique injury in the game against the 49ers. Coach McVay said it's possible for Adams to have returned to the game if the score had been closer, so that suggests that Adams should be there for week 11. Travis Hunter, the Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver. Today, the team officially announced that Hunter's out for the rest of the season with an LCL surgery on his knee. Parker Washington was a popular waiver ad. He was 3 for 33 with 1 touchdown, but Austin Trammell would be next in line, likely only in the deepest of leagues, though. Romeo Doubs, the Green Bay Packers wide receiver, left the Monday night game against the Eagles, which was described as a chest injury. But they have a fairly deep receiving crew, and I think Dontavian Wicks will be available to replace him. And Ontario Gadsden, the Los Angeles Chargers tight end, suffered a knee injury, but the MRI after the game revealed good news, and that was only a quad bruise and is considered day-to-day. He had been a bright light with 35 catches, 466 yards, 2 touchdowns. His backup is veteran Tyler Conklin if he's ruled out for week 11. Dalton Kincaid, the Buffalo Bills tight end, also had an injury, a hamstring injury. He's out for a couple of weeks. He's had a strong season so far. Dawson Knox and Jackson Haas were splitting the tight end position behind him. And also look for more work from wide receivers like Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. And that's really it for injuries and news. I'm going to pass this over now to Joe Carlton, who's going to be crack and give us some players to avoid.
Nice. Well done, Rick. It seems like every week there's a slew of friggin' new injuries. It's been a tough year. But anyways, I just want to start this segment off by saying Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Appreciate your service. Allows us to keep doing what we do back home. So appreciate that. Hope you all had a great day. And we'll get into it. Last week, I went 3-2. Derrick Henry finishing RB22. That's pretty damn close to outside of the top 24. He's usually a top 10 running back, top 10, top 12 running back. I would count that as a win. I don't know. Maybe, Greg and his technicalities, he gave me the loss anyways. But, we'll jump into who I think is going to crackle this week. We'll start off at quarterback. Again, this continues to be the toughest position to try to figure out who's going to finish outside the top 12. After a little bit of looking around, I settled in on Baker Mayfield. He's going on the road to Buffalo. I checked the weather report. Looks like it's going to be upper 30s, low 40s, 30% chance of precipitation, more so later on in the game than early in the game. This could affect passing, I suppose. He's used to Tampa Bay weather going up into Buffalo, New York. So always rough environment for a quarterback. Buffalo's coming off of a down week in which they just got beat up by the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to, I'm going to go with the narrative that they're going to come back in with a strong performance next week. They're also fourth this year versus the quarterback as far as fantasy points go. Last 4 weeks, actually number one versus the quarterback in the last 4 weeks, allowing only 7.5 points per game to the position while giving up only 2 passing touchdowns and 600 yards. He also had 4 interceptions in those 4 games. Tampa Bay will continue to be without their top weapons. Bucky Irvin's going to miss another game. Chris Godwin, we don't know when he's going to be back. So Baker Mayfield relying on all of his secondary options going into a rough environment. I expect an average to below average type of performance from Baker Mayfield. Moving on to the running back position. I'm going to go with R.J. Harvey here from the Denver Broncos. We know that J.K. Dobbins is looking at a possible IR stint. He got a foot injury. What worries me here is I'm not getting too excited about him being a feature back. We know Sean Payton is probably going to do a committee approach. He's Tyler Batty and probably Jaleel McLaughlin to an extent. I could see him using 3 running backs this week. R.J. Harvey is only played a 25 to 30% snap share. Throughout the season, we have yet to see him get an increase in snaps. His production has been a little bit better the past couple weeks. He's been getting involved in the pass game a little bit. But, they are going to Kansas. Is it Kansas City? They're playing Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot to write that down. But, they're going into Kansas City. I expect it to be, I don't think it's going to be a shootout. So I don't see them falling behind big time. Their defense is still playing solid. So, I expect it to be a similar type of game that we've been seeing out of RJ Harvey. I don't see his role increasing. Kansas City's ranked 7th against the running backs this year. It makes it even more difficult. I'm not excited about RJ Harvey this week. So he's my running back. That's going to crackle. Moving on to wide receiver. I'm going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson here. And I'm picking Wan'Dale with the expectation that Jackson Dart is not going to clear concussion protocol and he's going to miss. And I just have zero faith in Russell Wilson. I'd feel a little bit better about it if it was going to be Jameis Winston. but we're probably looking at Russell Wilson, and we're looking at the Green Bay Packers as their opponent, and they get after the quarterback. And we know Russell Wilson is just god awful under pressure. He can't get out of the pocket anymore like he used to back in his early days. And I just think it's going to be tough sledding all game long for the Giants. And that's going to, if Wan'Dale does have 5 or 6 catches, I can see it for only being for about 40 or 45 yards. So give his typical low floor type of performance. So Wandale Robinson at wide receiver for me, Crackling. Going to jump to tight end. This one was a tough one as well. We got some guys on bye. We have Ty Warren on bye. I went with Sam Laporta going against the Philly defense. Philly ranks third versus tight end this year in fantasy, and they just beefed up their defense at the trade deadline. They've only given up one passing touchdown to tight ends all year, none in the last 4 weeks. So they've been pretty stout against the tight end. Also, since Dan Campbell has taken over play calling, he has emphasized taking more shots downfield. And as a result, we have seen more Jameson Williams the past couple of weeks. They've been making a concerted effort to get him more involved. And I think that's hurt Laporta a little bit. So Sam Laporta is my pick at tight end. And my bonus pick, I'm going to go with wide receiver Troy Franklin from the Denver Broncos. Now, we know over the last 4 weeks, he has been the preferred target for Bo Nix. He's out-targeted Cortland Sutton. And in my personal opinion, I think this is the reason why Denver's offense has been inconsistent and kind of struggling as of late. They need to get back to finding ways to get Cortland Sutton the ball. And I think this week, going against Kansas City, they're going to have to rely on him a little bit more. They're going to have to find ways to get him involved, get him touches. He has been their true consistent red zone weapon once they get down inside the 30 to 20 in the red zone area, down close to the goal line. Andy Reid also is no slouch. He's a great coach. He knows that Troy Franklin's been the security blanket the last few weeks, so he's gonna obviously come up with a game plan to take that away from Bo Nix and make Bo Nix have to find other ways to get the offense into rhythm. So all those reasons is why I'm kind of down on Troy Franklin this week. And that pretty much does it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Dennis. He's going to give us some of those sleepers that might pop.
My sleepers were asleep last week, guys. I went 1-4, and Lamar Jackson didn't kill you, but he didn't give you Lamar Jackson type numbers. So I'm hoping for a bounce back this week. And Joe, I think you did a smart deal picking guys to do poorly against my Kansas City Chiefs, who are going to come back from their bye week pissed off at the rest of the NFL. So I think that's a good pick. At quarterback this week, I'm going to take a guy that just looked like he had a snooze fest on Monday Night Football last night. They're playing the Giants. The professor's data tells me this is an above-average matchup. The Giants 6th worse against quarterbacks when it comes to fantasy football points, giving up 20.6 points per game. I look for a big bounce back game with Jordan Love. It's going to be quite a contrast going from that Eagles defense to the Giants defense. And the Giants, with the new coach this week, it's going to be interesting to see how that team responds. At running back, usually I like to load up on guys that are going to be at home. I like to take as many advantages in fantasy football as I can. But this week I'm going on the road because Woody Marks plays against the Tennessee Titans. An easy matchup, according to the professor. They are the 5th worst defense in fantasy football when it comes to giving up points to running backs, 26.2 points per game. So I look for Woody Marks to have a big game. His last 4 weeks, 10-plus touches in each and every game, as they've kind of decided that Nick Chubb wasn't the answer at running back, and they're going with the more dynamic young player, and I think Woody Marks will do well. And, Davis Mills didn't scare me last week, and if they get C.J. Stroud back, that's even better. At wide receiver, I am going against the professor's data because the professor's data says the defense I'm going up against is extra tough. And yeah, on paper they are. But the Denver Broncos are the biggest 8-2 fraud in the NFL right now. 14 and a half games under 500. That's the record of the teams they faced. They have had 7 games already this year, folks, against teams with 5 or more losses. So when you're playing lousy teams, you're going to look a lot better. And Andy Reid, 22-4 lifetime coming out of the bye week. I expect a big game by Rashee Rice, who has come back, and apparently he used my Uber ride for him during his bye week, so he stayed out of trouble. All of us Chiefs fans gifting Rashee Rice Uber rides the rest of the year to keep him in there and doing well. So look for Mahomes to have a big game in Denver. The only thing I'm a little bit worried here is the advanced weather forecast says that it might not be a beautiful day in Denver, Colorado for that game. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But regardless, we saw Rome Odunze have a big game last week in absolutely miserable weather in Chicago. Mahomes, better quarterback in bad weather than Caleb Williams, and Rashee Rice gets a lot of yak. So I'm looking for Rashee Rice as my wide receiver. Tight end, I'm going back to the same guy that let me down last week. You know what that definition of insanity is, folks? It's doing the same thing and expecting different results. But this week, I'm taking Brock Bowers. And I feel a little bit more confident because it's an above average matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, or should I say the Dallas Cowgirls, who have given up 14.3 points per game to opposing tight ends. And I always like to mention when I've got a reason to talk about the Dallas Cowboys that how cool is it that a current member of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader group could have had her grandmother as part of that Cowboys cheerleaders the last time they were in a Super Bowl. You gotta love that, don't you, folks? My bonus pick, I'm going with an old guy. He has been steady. He's been pretty good coming back from injury. I expected him to be struggling a little bit. I expected him to be losing more touches to his RB running mate on that offense. But Aaron Jones is my pick. Above average matchup against that Chicago Bears defense, according to the professor. They've given up 22.9 points per game this year. And I like Aaron Jones to do well against that Bears defense, although I think the Bears are going to beat the Vikings this week. But Aaron Jones should put up enough fantasy football points to make you happy. And if I go 1-4 again this week, folks, you're probably going to see Joe Carlton in the pop segment because I'll have thrown the computer across the room. That's wrap it up for pop this week. Back to you, Rick.
Hey, first of all, great picks, Dennis. And I also want to really take the minute just to thank Joe Carlton for coming in, giving some great insights and some great players to avoid. Stepping in the brink and filling in for Greg Kellogg while he's vacationing in Japan. So thanks, Joe. It was a lot of great picks that I'm now scratching off my starting lineups. And hopefully folks out in the audience also are learning from your insights. And with that, that's it for the show for tonight. I want to thank everyone also for watching, and good luck in your games. And please watch out for the sports affiliation shows, including our Thursday checkdown, where we will provide more updates on player availability and also give you some good start and sit information. But also watch for all the different other sports affiliation shows. We've got some really great shows, great analysts, and great people to watch. And if you like tonight's show, please hit the like button and subscribe if you aren't already. And if not, good luck in all your games, and hope you have a great evening. Bye now.